Hey everyone, welcome to week 4 of the college football season. My name is Mike Browning. I am the host of College Football Road Trip at cfbroadtrip.com. Check it out. We are back home in Texas this week after 2 weeks in California at the Minnesota, Fresno State, and UCLA, Oklahoma games. We've had a great week. I will be posting my reports in the next few days on Fresno State and within the next week or so on UCLA. So go check out my website on those reports. Last week I went 8-2, so a pretty strong week. Though granted there weren't a whole lot of super competitive games. This week everything changes. We have a lot of top 25 matchups this week. So with all that said, let's just go ahead and start getting into it. This week we're going to start with a Friday night game out in the Mountain West. We have undefeated Air Force traveling to undefeated and 20th ranked Boise State. This should be a pretty good matchup, but Boise State is always super strong at home. So I am going to go ahead and start off this week by picking Boise State to win at home against Air Force on Friday night. Moving to our Saturday games, we're starting off with a big one in the Big Ten. We have 11th ranked Michigan traveling to 13th ranked Wisconsin. This should be a really strong Big Ten matchup. Michigan, you never know what you're going to get with them. They've struggled some on the offensive side of the ball. They barely got past Army, but you never know what that means, right? Because Army always has their own unique offense that's hard for defenses to line up against. But this week they're going to Wisconsin. Wisconsin's looked pretty strong so far this season. Because of that, I'm thinking Wisconsin is going to be able to keep the momentum. I'm going to pick Wisconsin to beat Michigan in Big Ten play. So Wisconsin with the win this week. Our next matchup is a Pac-12 SEC matchup. We have Cal traveling to Ole Miss. Cal's probably been one of the surprises so far this season. They've struggled so many years in the Pac-12, so to be able to come out and have their big win over Washington was a bit of a surprise, I think. They traveled to Ole Miss. Ole Miss, has their season opening loss to Memphis, but have had a couple wins since then. I think Ole Miss at home is going to be able to keep up that momentum. So I'm going to pick Ole Miss to beat Cal in our next game. Finally, let's go to our next big top 25 matchup. We have number 6 Auburn traveling to number 17 Texas A&M. Texas A&M does have their loss to number 1 Clemson a couple weeks ago. Auburn struggled. They barely got past Oregon, but they are undefeated. You have to hand it to them there. But they're traveling to A&M, which is probably one of the tougher places to play a football game. I think Texas A&M is going to have enough momentum behind them at home to pull off what would probably be considered a minor upset this week. So I'm going to pick Texas A&M to beat Auburn this week. Next, let's go to BYU. The Washington Huskies are traveling to BYU this week. As I mentioned, Washington did have their loss a couple weeks ago to Cal. BYU had a season opening loss to Utah, but had a couple wins since then, although the teams that they beat have not been that great. I think Washington's going to have the momentum with them this week. I think they're going to be able to pull off the win at BYU. So let's pick number 22 Washington to win at BYU. Let's go to North Carolina for our next matchup. Appalachian State is traveling to North Carolina. This is one of those group of 5 teams traveling to a Power 5 team that you never know what you're going to get in these types of matchups. The ACC has struggled so far this year in these types of matchups, but I think North Carolina is going to have enough that they're going to be able to pull off the win. So I'm going to pick North Carolina to win over Appalachian State. Let's go with a SEC matchup next. We have Kentucky traveling to Mississippi State. We know that Kentucky lost to Florida last week, although Kentucky did have a lead for at least the first half of that game before Florida came back to win. I think that Kentucky will have a lot of momentum this week. I think they're going to be able to go to Mississippi State and pull off the win. So I'm going to pick Kentucky over Mississippi State in SEC play. Next, let's go to the big North Texas matchup. We have SMU traveling to TCU in Fort Worth. Both teams are going into this one undefeated, although SMU has not had the strongest schedule to this point. TCU, I think, is going to be too strong for them. They always seem to have momentum in this game, especially when the game is at home. So I'm going to pick TCU to win at home against SMU. TCU with the victory. Next, let's go to what's probably the biggest Big 12 matchup of this week. We have Oklahoma State traveling to number 12 Texas. We know Texas had the loss to LSU a couple weeks ago. Plus, Oklahoma State seems to have always had Texas' number, especially in Austin. Oklahoma State has won the last 4 matchups in Austin over Texas. Will they be able to get 5? I don't think so. I think Texas is going to have too much on the offensive side of the ball to be able to pull away from Oklahoma State in the second half. So I'm going to pick number 12 Texas to win at home against Oklahoma State to kick off Big 12 play for those two schools. And finally, the last game of this week is the top 10 matchup. Probably the most anticipated matchup of this week. We have number 7 Notre Dame traveling to number 3 Georgia. This should be a really strong matchup. We know Notre Dame always travels well. We know that they will have all the momentum behind it that they need, because we know that if Notre Dame loses even a single game, that they are likely out of the college football playoffs. So they're going to go in knowing they have to win this game. But Georgia knows that Notre Dame's tough after pulling off just the 1-point victory over them a couple years ago. Because of that, I think Georgia is going to be able to go in and hit on all cylinders. They know how important this matchup is and how tough Notre Dame can be. So I think Georgia is going to be able to pull off the win here. So I'm going to pick number 3 Georgia over number 7 Notre Dame at home this week. So those are our week 4 matchups. Tune in next week, see how I do. We'll go over our week 5 matchups. Again, go to my website, cfbroadtrip.com. Over the next couple days, I should be putting out my Fresno State Stadium report that I would love everyone to check out and give their opinions on. Until then, enjoy this week's games, everyone, especially the top 25 matchups, and we'll talk to you again next week.